Welcome into the Jordy Culotta Show. Wave your hand out there, baby!
Shout out to the show.
She puts the pinky into the nostril. Man, look at that.
Healthy competition, there's nothing like it.
Y'all grow up.
The line's wrapped around the stadium.
Different strengths. I just lost a tooth.
It's going to be fun.
You know, we might have a story.
I love what you're doing.
Ogeron wants to take us fishing this afternoon.
Sharif, you play for the bad boys of the SEC, man. We don't apologize to anybody.
A lot of people are saying you're going to be wearing number 7.
I don't really know. I want to. He look crazy, Bill.
Good feet on the old man.
Definitely come back.
We'll be right back with the Jordy Culotta Show. All right, welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show. As always, brought to you by our friends over at RMB Builders. Get in touch with Rhett and his crew at rmb-builders.com or on Instagram at RMB Builders. Yesterday, we were out. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. Make sure to hit that like button, share button, comment button. Remember, our phone lines brought to you by Southern Regional Medical Center. Southern Regional Medical Center, formerly known as Metropolitan Health Group. Same services, same great spot over there at Southern Regional Medical Center. It's a rebrand. Charles Harvey and Jason Ramazan. Speaking of Mr. Fun, remember the trip coming up to Orlando for LSU Florida State on opening college football weekend. Tigers taking on the Seminoles in Orlando, and will be Mr. Fun's travel. We can get you there with first-class travel to and from Baton Rouge to Orlando, travel to the stadium and back, and if you need tickets, Mr. Fun's Travel can take care of that as well. Good to be back. LSU heading to Omaha. Great interviews this week on Mic'd Up. If you have not seen them, phenomenal Q&A and sit down with Jay Johnson, the head baseball coach at LSU, who spent 30 minutes with the boys, just kind of breaking down the latest trip to Omaha, 19th trip in program's history for LSU, as they will be making their way to Omaha to play in the primetime game on Saturday night versus Tennessee. And then Paul Skeens and Thatcher Hurd were at Mic'd Up earlier this week as well. So if you missed any of that, I would recommend getting over and checking it out. Really cool conversation. Katie is here.
Hey.
Lloyd is here, and Stewie is here on this packed Wednesday. So appreciate everybody being here.
Are y'all going to the send-off this morning? The Omaha send-off? Anyone?
I am not.
It's at 9 a.m.
We're sending off Lloyd. We're sending Lloyd off in a car tonight. Lloyd's going to make the 15-hour, 14-hour trek to Omaha.
I'm seeing some flights over here, Coach.
I
might have to pull a Culotta on the
I have anxiety for you.
I have got third-hand anxiety for you. I really do.
No way would I make that drive.
Driving through the state of Kansas.
You'd have to drug me and throw me in the back of that car to make me make that drive.
That's my plan. I'm just going to do it to myself. Where are we? Canada. Good. You can tell me anything.
Wake me up.
How many people in the car?
4? That's not a lot.
In what kind of car?
It depends on what type of vehicle we're talking
Yeah.
about.
We're in a Tahoe.
Okay.
We're in a Tahoe.
XL?
I don't know.
Just a regular
I
Tahoe?
think we got the
4-door?
got the TV in there.
Okay.
We got the old King Griffey baseball on the Sega Genesis.
Okay.
So we got a little bit of
really?
a plan.
I'm trying to lay the seats down.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure it out. And the best thing about being me is nobody expects me to do anything.
That's right.
I don't have to drive. I just have to be present. And so I'll stay up with you. I can do that whole bit as long as you don't make me drive, because then I'm a danger to society. Not good behind the wheel. I get too distracted.
We noticed that your car has blue tape all over it right now.
That's another thing I got a couple of things I need to get taken care of.
A couple of things
that are still on the docket. There might be a warrant out for a arrest for a inspection sticker that I've gotten done. I just have to go to Port Allen and get figured out.
Lloyd.
Or I can just pay it. It's one of those things. I missed my court date. It was Monday.
Oh, Lloyd.
I forgot. Took a picture, set an alarm and everything. What's this for?
No, you did not.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh, I missed it again. So,
They're
I'm
probably
fleeing to
this
Omaha.
guy, man.
You are fleeing.
I'm fleeing
the state.
I don't even know if they'd let me fly.
LSU is fleeing the state this morning. They will be heading up to Omaha. The Tigers are facing off, as we said, against the final team to stamp their ticket to the tournament. As Tennessee won the rubber match versus Southern Miss 4-0 on Monday. The Volunteers will take on LSU on the second day of the College World Series. So, as we said, the slate of games will look like this. On Friday, June 16th, coming up this Friday, Oral Roberts would take on TCU in the opening game at 1 o'clock. Virginia will take on Florida at 6 p.m., which is game 2. Then Saturday's slate will begin with number 8 Stanford taking on number 1 Wake Forest at 1 p.m. And then Tennessee and LSU will have the primetime event as you're probably looking at Chase Dolander versus Paul Skeens in that matchup versus LSU and Tennessee. So 2 of the dominant aces in college baseball and in the league this season will be squaring off against one another. I was at that Dolander-Skeens game earlier this season, and it was as electric of an environment that you have ever found in a regular season game in the box. It was packed from start to finish. It was football traffic after the game of people getting out of the box. I expect the same type of interest and intrigue for this one in the build-up for Tennessee LSU coming up on Saturday.
I'm so glad it's Tennessee. Do you know why?
No.
Because I get to look at
Tony Vitello.
Tony V.
Tony V.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, makes it even more interesting.
I'm in the same boat.
Tony V won some people over this year. I feel
He
like
did.
he was public enemy number 1 last year in the way that Tennessee was playing. He took a lot of that heat, but then they kind of toned it down a little bit. And they're a sleeping giant. It feels like they're rolling into Omaha with obviously the pressure that they had last year, and then it feels like they dialed it back a bit, and they're still as good as they were last year. So, and then you see Tony V come sliding into the super regional photo for them on the way to Omaha. Everybody, like last year, they would have bagged him for it. This year, they're all.
Okay, why did it change? Why?
Because it's not as in your face.
I guess so.
They were very.
Somebody
they were like the bad news
obviously
bears.
got to Vitello.
Yeah, somebody
Like,
did.
I would imagine probably an
You're making this
administrator
very
in
hard.
Tennessee,
Yeah.
You know, it's probably like, look, man,
I get it.
we love you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're in no threat of losing your job, but you're bringing so much unwarranted criticism at us. Like, we're cool with the shtick, but you got to win one first. You know what I mean? Like, before you start stepping out there and wanting to, you know, like run your mouth and throw your hands in the air, let's get to Omaha first. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a good plan.
Yeah, the daddy hat, and the pimp jacket, and all that.
like all this stuff is
arguing
just,
every
it's
play.
So
Yeah.
bold.
It
you know what
is.
I mean, and for some people, they like that. You know, people want brash. People want in your face. But the rate he was doing it at.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like really, I thought like during the super regional 2 years ago when Maneri was there and that whole. You know, when it was kind of him leading the charge of the reaction that Maneri got when they introduced. I mean, that was Maneri's last game ever, right? I mean, like he'd been in the game for nearly 40 years. I mean, like he was just kind of going on a little victory tour. What is if they were, you know, getting you to chant LSU? They just want you to. He's gonna wave his hat around and wave to you real quick, right? I mean,
And instead, they booed him.
yeah. And
No.
a lot of that it felt like kind of came from.
This is the new Tennessee.
Yeah, like
old
not
guard's
necessarily
out. We're-
Vitello, like, you know, holding up a sign saying
Right.
to boo him, but that just would like the program had started to trend in that direction, right? And look, who's LSU to tell anybody how to have, you know, fan couth, right? I mean,
Right.
but that was a bad look.
It was.
You know what I mean?
It
Like
was.
that,
I remember
was,
that.
That was, and I think, you know, I mean, then the last year was so over the top. You
It was
know, where
entertaining, though.
It was definitely entertaining. But what was more entertaining was probably them getting bounced.
Yeah.
At the end of the
Yeah,
year. You know,
yeah.
for a lot of people, where you know, I mean, like Tennessee's administration was like, "Yeah, Tony, a couple of notches,
Just a little,
know what I mean? Like-
scale it back.
just bring it back a little bit." You
Because
know what I mean?
even in that situation with Paul Maneri, he could have done something to
Yes.
stop. You've seen college coaches do where they're like, well, they'll walk on the field and be like, what
Right.
are y'all doing? Like,
Right.
no, like this is not the way we're handling this situation. Like, be respectful, whatever.
Yeah.
And they just let it play out. And that's when he got the ire of LSU fans. And once that happens, you're never getting that back. There's nobody more spiteful or vengeful than LSU fans.
And I don't know if it was all LSU fans. You know what I mean? I think
it was around college baseball.
It was LSU fans for that moment, right? But I think the rest of college baseball started to take notice of like what's going on. You know, I mean, but it's double edged, right? Because he's recruited at such a high level, and for as good as they were on paper last season, and it was argued that they were like the best team.
Yeah.
I mean, like you know, in recent history, he's got this team playing at a higher level.
Yeah.
I mean, this
They
team
are
was
more
a little bit
focused.
more scary, I would say, than last year's team was. On paper, last year's team was, as you know, looked like LSU. I mean, they had everything. This team is a little scrappier, and you know, for like we said, I mean, it's not lost that edge. It's kind of refocused that edge, you know,
Which is a
where
little
it's-
scarier.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's going to be a really good game.
I still think LSU can take them, though.
Oh, I mean, has the line come out? Has the spread come out on it yet?
I'm sure it has. It'll
I mean,
probably
was
be
Dolander and Skeens
Skeens,
are probably
it'll
even
be-
money.
Nah, I would probably still say I think what it was in their first matchup was Skeens minus a run and a half. So there's still a lot of, you know, it seems like the preeminent favorite of the best pitcher in the country, and the way he's throwing right now, it would be hard pressed to not see him as a favorite, and almost see him as the first overall pick in the draft. He may overtake Dylan Cruz because of what he can do for. If the Pirates continue to stay in the playoff hunt, they'll call him up, and he might throw out the bullpen in a playoff scenario. So that's where Skeens is getting a lot of almost too good to ignore. And Dylan Cruz is your consistent. He's going to play for 10, 12 years in the big leagues, all-star, you know, that whole thing. But Skeens can help you now. And so that's why he's getting a lot of pub. But for this series, that's the only thing that makes you, if you didn't want to see Tennessee win, some people wanted the matchup, some people, you know, didn't. And if you're an LSU fan, that's the only thing that would make you a little bit nervous. Is there at least one other arm in the country that you wouldn't want to see right now is a Dolander matchup with Skeens, because then it's the first game of the year for Omaha, so then you have to fight your way back through the other side of the bracket, which is always the tougher climb. But LSU, and Jay said it, that for as much maligned as the pitching has been, he's like, we feel like we're in a good spot. We didn't have to throw as many arms that we wanted to use in the Super Regional we didn't get to, so we'll be able to work them in this weekend. They have an extended bullpen whenever they get to Omaha. So he feels like they're deeper than a lot of people think that they are in the country when it comes to the pitching staff. So it doesn't have to be a Skeens 9-inninger for you to win, at least in his mind. And I trust whatever he thinks, because he's seen it at a much closer level.
Well,
It's got to get your pitching coach back from Georgia, who went to go do his song and dance.
the pitching staff to me is. I agree with. I mean, like I believe that. Like when he says that, I don't think that that's coach speak. I think that he has extended his trust into that staff a lot more over the last couple of weeks to give him, you know, some type of
Confidence.
security.
Yeah.
That they can, you know, you can go to him in a spot. You can go to them in a spot that, you know, you may not have been able to do in the past. So,
But that's what it is, right? You've been hoping and searching that LSU finds a role for each guy, and it feels like they found that. However they want to stagger it, it feels like that it's almost worked itself out to where if you have, let's say a Ty Floyd goes, and he's obviously high-volume pitcher, throws a lot of pitches, but he also throws 96. You know, he has wipeout stuff, and then you can go to Riley Cooper, who looks totally different from the left side, and he can give you an extended outing because he's able to put together 4 innings, which is a lot to ask from a reliever, but it's something that he's done consistently throughout his career. And if Coach said the same thing, he's like, well, how can you not trust him at this point? Every time I put him in this situation, it feels like he comes through for me. So, and he's one of the few guys that have pitched in Omaha with Cooper. I think Christian Little has been there, but other than those two, this is the first trip for all these fellas. So you have guys that have had, at least you have one guy with experience that if it turns into a high leverage situation, you'll see Cooper go out there and it might shock everybody else, but as an LSU fan, if you're watching, be like, yeah, that's the guy that we trust. You all make fun of him if you want. Watch him sit down 7 in a row. So
That's true.
You got to feel good with where the staff is.
Okay, I have a really easy trivia question today.
hit me.
When was LSU's last appearance in Omaha?
17.
That's right. Let me add a little to it. So including this season, How many times have the Tigers been to Omaha?
19.
19.
Yeah, okay. Well, I tried to make it a little harder.
No.
But
It's everywhere.
I know, it is everywhere. It is
LSU
everywhere.
first baseman and DH Jared Jones received second-team freshman All-America recognition honors by National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association. Jones, of course, out of Marietta, hit 300 for the season, 12 doubles, 14 home runs for the freshman. Had 45 runs knocked in and scored 37. He's fourth on LSU's club in homers and fifth in ribbies. He was named to the freshman All-SEC team last month, and he was named by the head coaches in the league, and he has not been in the lineup over the last couple of weeks, but I think is another sign and example of just how talented and deep LSU is. Right, when you have an option like this that's sitting on the bench from just the power standpoint and the ability to knock runs in. He's also played a little bit of first base for LSU this season, but I can't imagine at this point in the year that Trey Morgan would be moving out of that spot just because of how solid he has been on that corner spot of the infield. So some good news for LSU players, including Bear Jones, Jared Jones, the freshman, who received All-American selection honors yesterday. So it was another day of accolades for this LSU team before they take off this morning, before they head to Omaha to face Tennessee coming up on Saturday night. So obviously the field in Omaha is set. LSU will be taking on Tennessee. If LSU wins that game, they will be taking on the winner of Wake Forest and Stanford, which is the 1 versus 8 seed. Since 1999, the 1 seed has not won the Omaha College World Series. So I don't know how much you want that 1 standing next to your name. Wake Forest has got it, and LSU. And if LSU takes care of business on Saturday night, on Saturday evening versus Tennessee, then they will be facing the winner of Wake Forest and Stanford. So we might get that heavily regarded matchup that everybody was talking about throughout the season. There's only been 2 teams in college baseball that have been number 1 this season. LSU held it down for the majority of the year, and then Wake Forest had it for kind of the second half of the season. So, by just the polls, LSU and Wake have been the 2 best teams in college baseball all season long. There's a potential second-round matchup in Omaha of those 2 teams meeting up. I think that would be fantastic. Obviously, got to get through Tennessee on Saturday, but that's a really intriguing matchup just for college baseball enthusiasts. There's a lot of people around the country that want to see that matchup, not just in the local markets of Winston-Salem and Baton Rouge. People would love to see that from a national standpoint. I don't think that this affects what you do from a pitching standpoint. A lot of people have asked, what will Jay Johnson do with Paul Skeens? And I think he's going to do exactly what he's done with him, the past 2 weekends, where people have said he's got an option, he's got a choice to make, when he really didn't. Right? I mean, in the opening game of the regional, he threw Skeens versus Tulane, and then obviously he tried to beat the weather and beat Kentucky with Skeens in the opening game of the Super Regional versus Kentucky last weekend in Baton Rouge. I don't see anything different here on this matchup. You're in Omaha, you're in postseason play where you got to stay out of the losers bracket, and you're in the opening game. I don't know if they're going to throw Lindsey. I don't know if they're going to throw Dolander. I'd imagine that they would throw Dolander. But we'll see. I believe that LSU will definitely throw Paul Skeens just because of the emphasis of what this first game means and what Jay Johnson has shown in his past. His track record says it, right? I mean, there was so much debate going into the regional of what he was going to do. Thatcher Hurd, Ty Floyd, will he throw a combination of arms? He went with Paul Skeens. And I think that will be the same come Saturday versus Tennessee, where you do have to strategize in this tournament for your arms. But listening to Jay Johnson on Mic'd Up earlier this week, he seems like he's in a very comfortable place of where his arms are heading into the weekend. So I would put my money on Paul Skeens going first and having the ball on Saturday. It'll be exactly a 7-day rest for him, right? He went last Saturday night versus Kentucky, and it'll be another Saturday matchup for him versus Tennessee. So as far as the time and rest goes, it keeps Skeens on his clock, right? I mean, it keeps him in his regular rotation. As far as his preparation and day-to-day grind goes, nothing really changes. And I don't know if anybody saw Paul Skeens sitting in our studio on Monday night, and he was sitting next to Mikey Matuk. And many of you who are from here or live in this market and go to LSU baseball games, odds are you've seen Matuk up close, right? I mean, if you're a baseball fan, you've probably met him, gotten an autograph, taken a picture, whatever it is. Matuk's a pretty big guy, right? He's not my size. I mean, he's a professional athlete. Paul Skeens sitting next to Matuk in the interview on Monday night, then standing next to him
one, yeah.
after the interview for the picture is one of the most
Can
surreal,
we put that up? Thanks.
just when he
Jaw
was
dropping.
I mean, when he was sitting in the chair next to I texted Lloyd. I'm like, good Lord. Look at the thighs on. I mean, he looks like Herschel Walker sitting in the chair, man. And I don't know I think he's bigger than 6'6". I don't know if he wants to be bigger than 6'6", just because you rarely see, pitchers that size. But
he's Kevin Duranting it.
he is all of 6'6" if he's 6'6". He looks almost 6'8".
He's a monster.
And I mean,
I didn't know he was that big.
His build. He looks like an NFL football player.
He does.
I mean, not only I'm talking about an NFL football player in his prime. I could not get over just how much bigger he was than Mikey sitting
I thought
next
the
to him.
picture was distorted. I thought Mikey was standing too far back,
I mean,
and I was like,
a
he shouldn't have
3D
done
type
that.
image
It is.
where you're like, look at this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's jumping through the screen.
I don't think Mikey's ever gotten on his tippy toes in a photo.
I
Or if
know.
he has done it in quite some time, but that was the moment called for it. And from a production standpoint, usually you try to avoid the legs when they wear the shorts, but we didn't have to worry about that. I think this is sex appeal. I mean, these things are two tree trunks he had plopped into his lap.
Zoom out.
Yeah, you couldn't
Let
fit
me
them
see
into
his
the
ankles.
screen. I mean, and he did show us his bruise that he rocked whenever he took one off the back of the leg. Still healing up, so he feels fine.
Really?
But yeah, because I asked him about the one between the legs.
Yeah.
And he's like, I mean, I would rather the one that caught me catch me than that one. Hit me where it did than the other one.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm still healing up. But the leg's all good. But yeah, pull up the picture. I mean, he's massive. Even Thatcher's. Look at Thatcher. He's 6'3".
He is.
I mean, it looks like 3 frat dudes and a professional athlete.
It does. It's exactly what it looks
Jared
like.
Mitchell's a first-round pick.
Mikey
Thatcher
Matuk.
Hurd, potentially could be a big-time major league prospect. Mikey Matuk was a first-round selection in the major league. You're looking at 2 first-round picks standing next to what is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. I mean,
God, I thought Mikey's legs were big always.
Look
Look
at
at
the
this
size
guy's
differential.
I mean,
legs.
Skeens can eat cabbage off his head.
and Skeens has got a little lean to him.
Oh, yeah.
He's not even standing
Yeah.
straight up.
I mean, it was impressive.
That
Goes
is
to
impressive.
show, and then you put him on top of a mound where it
Yeah.
gives
Oh
you
my
that other
God.
optical illusion of you add however tall a college mound is supposed to be. I don't know, but I would imagine that's quite intimidating having him up there throwing 102, and now that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you see him on the field, it doesn't look the
doesn't.
same as when you see him.
No, it
I
does
mean,
not. It
There's a
doesn't.
reason I'm not in that picture.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
And, or maybe I am.
Yeah, right.
You're behind him.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And I mean, they're all top-rate dudes.
Yeah.
So it was a great interview. Glad to have him on
Yeah, it
before they
was.
send off to Omaha. And you can see that he's wearing the Thatcher's wearing the Travinsky shirt. The team's all in on the team. And so it was great to be able to get their perspective. And obviously, Jay comes on for an unencumbered 30 minutes and just was shooting the shit with the boys. So
That's amazing.
It was a great interview. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out.
It's
on
phenomenal.
YouTube.
I'm telling you.
It was a great send-off for LSU baseball. And it'll really make you like the team.
You can
Yeah.
feel the pressure, or at least a little small release of pressure,
Yes.
not all of it, off of Jay Johnson's shoulders by getting this program to Omaha.
Look at him in the Super Regional interview after they
That's what I'm talking about.
clinched.
I mean, really and truly, I'm talking about Monday's interview.
Yeah.
I mean, with Mic'd Up. I
Yeah,
mean, that
absolutely.
That was he's got his feet up.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, he couldn't be happy.
What else are we talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
he's asking us questions.
I mean, it was.
I don't have anywhere to be right now. And so it was great to get that perspective. I knew that's how he has wanted to be, but going from the regional play where he was a little tight. Mm-hmm. He was shutting down media.
Coach, I thought he was tight at the end of the regular season.
I think he saw.
He was starting to coil up a little bit, you know, like.
Well, they had lost a couple of games, SEC tournament, and I think he was trying to get. He knew what the plan was for the team, but then you start to get the LSU public pressure of, well, if you lost 2 out of 3, you're limping into a regional essentially, and then you have, you know, the debate of who to throw versus Tulane, and he throws Skeens, and he gets ire for that. And everything that he's done up to this point has worked out. I think he just got tired of hearing everybody's opinion on how he should do his job.
Do you blame him?
And he was just like, fine, if y'all don't want to hear from me, I won't talk. And then...
Which I get.
Yeah. I don't have to explain myself. We won 6-4. What do you want? We swept. What do you want? Go into the Super Regional, sweep again. What do you want? All right, fine, here. Come talk to me now. I got nothing to hide. You know, now I'm going into Omaha, the place that they hadn't been in since when? What was that year? Katie?
2017.
Right. That's something that, and this is what Mikey was saying, is that's not what happens here. Mm-hmm. If you're understand like the LSU lore or the history of LSU baseball, this feels like it's been an eternity for LSU to go to Omaha. And
it really does.
Move the goalpost even farther a bit since they've won it.
Well, and that's the first time that they've been to the championship series and lost. That was the first time that LSU's program had been to the championship game and gotten beat. I mean, the thing about Skip that was, you know, like he had impressive stats, but then you started digging in and it became like more impressive. It was like the Michael Jordan effect.
Yeah.
If he showed up, he was winning.
Right.
You know, I mean, Skip
That's
was
so
5 for
amazing.
5.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
that's
Know,
amazing.
I mean, the one for the thumb, boys. You know, I mean, it was that was
the bet nickel.
That was the thing about it. Like you knew when they got there. You know what I mean? Like even when Terrio and them were down like late in that game, I remember sitting with my boys watching the game and us believe like they're gonna win. Like
that's amazing.
Skip's about to go skip. You know, like he's gonna pull some little string. He's gonna do something. And I think in that game he actually like sent Jeremy Witten into DH, and Witten was the football punter and stepped in there and hit a 2-run home run like late in the game and gave him life. You know, like where you're like Skip, you know, like Whit, get up there, hit, you know, like just ping.
Yeah,
you know, like
hadn't played
2-run
3
blast.
weeks. Yeah.
You know, like here comes LSU. Is like
how
just
amazing.
Incredible how it would always
work itself out.
And I don't want to say it like it would always work out for him because he was always doing something behind the scenes that it may not have been done in the championship game, but throughout that tournament he had done something to win you a game, to put you in a position to, I mean, all of it was always was working out for Skip and LSU. So when LSU got there in 2017 and they made it to the finals, even when people saying like Florida's pitching staff is unhittable and they're all going to be first-round picks, I remember thinking, well, LSU just doesn't lose when they get here. Like LSU is going to find a way to win this championship because that's the nature of the program. And you know, when it didn't work out, you know, you were kind of like, man, you've never felt like this. You've never felt this type of feeling in this program. So
when did they win? When was the last time they won before 2017? 09. Okay. And a listener threw in here, Eric Dulayan, maybe I'm saying that right. What year was the first year that LSU went to the College World Series?
86.
Was it?
Yeah, I think like Papa John and them went in 86, and they had a really good team. And I don't mean – I meant when they get to the championship game, they win. Because they've been to Omaha and been bounced.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like that team in 98 with Doug and them and Cressy, they were the best team in the tournament, but they got bounced before the championship. You know, I mean, even like Todd Walker and them didn't make it in 92. You know, like that 92 team was fantastic when Walker was a freshman. Now they went back in 93 and won it when Walker was a sophomore. But, you know, I mean, they had teams that you were like, I mean, that 1995 team with Lloyd Peaver. We talked about Lloyd Peaver. Mm-hmm. He was on that 95 team. I mean, they went back and won it in 96 and 97. Mm-hmm. That 95 team was pretty good too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was Skip when he got to the championship game. You always were like, you're not going to beat him here.
That's amazing.
I mean,
yeah.
you're not going to beat. I mean, like the first couple, the 91 Wichita State game was a great game, but they kind of, at the end of it, they felt like the better team. They closed it out. 93, they beat the ever-living hell out of Wichita State. I mean, they blanked them. They beat them like 9-10-0.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, Brett Laxton was a true freshman pitcher in that game, and I think struck out 16 or 17 people. I mean, it was crazy. Todd Walker hit a first-inning home run. I mean, like, you knew early that thing was over.
What year was it when they had, like, a home run derby off Kyle Peterson? Because somebody put that on Twitter.
I think that was Stanford.
Yeah, I know, but
it's 2000.
Because somebody put it on Twitter yesterday.
Oh, no. You know what? That might have been like the Gorilla Ball with Cressy and them.
They were just like...
Oh, they were teeing off.
He was putting it on a tee for him.
They were teeing off.
And it was like 2 different games.
And Kyle Peterson was like heading in to be a first-round pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he quoted the tweet and was like, sometimes you don't want to be on the bad side of history, but this is one time where I will be.
When you talk about, like, Skip showing up or what it's almost like the LSU lore a little bit, like the gold jerseys, all that stuff, but it's the feeling that you're talking about where if you're an LSU fan or if you're watching and you've seen LSU play in those situations that they're going to win, don't think that every other team in the tournament doesn't have that same, like,
right,
like, we're never safe whenever LSU shows up.
No doubt.
Like, if you're up 4-2 in the 8th, you're like, this is almost worse than being tied.
Yeah, I don't know if they still have that like they did because time has gone by so long where people haven't. But you could feel in like the 90s and early 2000s, they had the Tiger Woods effect.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you saw them on the leaderboard, you were like, oh, shit.
Yes, I remember.
They're exactly who we think they are.
Right. I mean, like
remember.
we're in trouble. Like the other side was in trouble. I think too much time has probably elapsed since.
But not at Omaha.
LSU has had that lore. But like for the players.
Yeah, you're right.
To know it.
Yeah.
But like the coaches will be sitting in the dugout thinking like,
well, and I'm thinking of like the people in Omaha that haven't seen LSU in a minute. They're gonna be like, oh, whenever they show up, like, get ready for not only the experience but for what they do in the tournament.
The people of Omaha.
And you talked about how Skip makes adjustments. I think Jay has proven to be kind of in that same ballpark. I'm not saying he's Skip Bertman, but I'm saying with the amount of talent that he collected on this roster, and look at Bear Jones as a SEC second team All-American, and freshman All-American, and he's not playing. Like, he's had to move pieces around. You saw Trey Morton left. Now you see him at first. You've seen Doucet in and out of the lineup. You have 2 pitchers go down, both of which Garrett Edwards and Chase Soares both pitched against Tennessee, and LSU was still able to make a move to Omaha. So he's had to pull his fair share of strings as well and find the right, I guess, collaboration of talent to be able to get the best output he could from LSU. Like, Cade Beloso wasn't playing, and now he's hitting .330 with 13 home runs. And it's just a matter of putting all the pieces together, and it feels like everything seems like it's in the right spot for LSU. It feels like your lineup's in a good spot, and also the pitching rotation is not nearly as dire as it felt to be probably a month ago, where now it feels like Thatcher Hurd's your third starter, and you feel comfortable with him there. Ty Floyd's going second, and you know what he's going to give you. It feels like everything it's more known than unknown at this point, and that's all you can really ask for, because baseball is a crazy game, but at least you have an opportunity to play it.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, LSU is – and Jay Johnson does have that feel to him. Like he's not scared to tinker. He's not scared to pull. He's not scared to try and push buttons that – I mean, I think Bear Jones is a great example. Like you said, I mean, somebody that, has those types of numbers, but you're able to feel like he's not the guy right now. Josh Pearson.
Pearson.
I mean, Pearson's another great example of, where was he for the majority of the regular season? Right, but now that it's time where he's kind of found out, or figured it out, Johnson's got him in the lineup. I think that LSU is playing right at the right time, and obviously heading into Omaha with a ton of confidence.
Yes.
I think they're going into Omaha really back to where they were when they were playing the dominant ball at the beginning of the season, and. For a long roller coaster ride of a year, that's all you can ask for when you're pulling into the finish line, right? I mean, to kind of keep it consistent and know who you are and, know and feel what the next couple of days could be like. So LSU and Tennessee game 1 Saturday night, 6 p.m. from Omaha, as it will be the last of the opening slate of the games. It'll be a primetime game as Friday gets going with a couple of matchups, and then Stanford will take on Wake Forest at 1 p.m. and then LSU will have the nightcap, of course, versus Tennessee.
Would you rather have had Southern Miss?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, but I think LSU's better than Tennessee.
I do too.
You know, I mean, I really.
But they're
I mean,
definitely better than Southern Miss.
I think if you get to this point of the year, it doesn't matter who you play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean,
They're all good.
Yeah.
I mean, like Oral Roberts. I'd rather be playing Oral Roberts, but I don't know if I would. You know, what I mean, Oral Roberts they're feeling themselves. They're playing their best ball. They just went into Oregon and knocked off the Ducks in their place.
Oral Roberts has a kid on their team with like a 42-game hit streak.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean,
TCU is on fire.
Is on fire right now.
So it shows
wild.
you how hard
Yeah.
it is to get to get to Omaha. But you want to say clean slate whenever you get there. But every team that's there is playing their best baseball at the time. So
exactly.
It's hard to ride that wave, especially if you're a team that's already been good. But every team feels good going into Omaha right now, because whether it be a TCU or an Oral Roberts, it doesn't matter. We're both here.
Yeah.
And then did you see the way Stanford got in?
Yes.
That's
That is
heartbreaking.
brutal.
Did you see it?
What a Texas way to lose.
Yes.
What a Texas
The walk-off.
way to lose, as far as just being
The
brutal.
eyes of Texas are upon you.
Brutal.
Look up. Look up.
Brutal.
Pitcher was dying. He was
I'm
pointing
sure-
at the ball.
yes.
And he's like, nobody's moving.
I-
Nobody's
I-
moving.
I see
I mean,
it.
the guy that hit it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like chugging out, and he looks over, and he's like, "Oh,
Drew
shit." You
Bowser.
can see his mouth. He's like, "Oh shit!"
They're not gonna
Because he's
catch
like,
it.
They can't find it.
Did you see the bat before where the I don't know Stanford's lineup, excuse me, but he thought he hit a walk-off.
Yes.
He hits it off the
Yeah,
top
and he
of the
took
wall,
his he
throw his
took his
and he
helmet
was
off.
jogging, and
Right.
he could have gotten tagged out.
Easily.
I'm
I was
surprised they didn't
This is the last 15 minutes of this game is on crack.
Yes.
I was like, Stanford, you're trying to lose, and then Texas ultimately trips farther down the hill, and then it's just like a calamity of errors at the end, and then it kind of felt gross. Because you're watching it, and you're like, Stanford's like, I guess we're going to Omaha. Like, they're excited, but this isn't a way to win.
Right.
Like,
you don't
you're
Yeah.
want
like,
to this.
all right, sorry guys. Like,
Yeah.
See y'all later.
Congratulations, you can play the number 1 team in the country.
right? You get your money's worth. Go take a picture.
But that was
Brutal.
That was brutal.
That's
I mean,
sad.
that was a brutal way to lose for Texas. I mean, it's kind of, look, you take the win every single time. It's kind of a brutal way to win for Stanford. Either way, Stanford's in, Texas is out. Wake Forest will face Stanford in the opening game. Don't forget about our friends over at Katie's Restaurant down in New Orleans. In fact, I'm eating lunch at Katie's today. Meeting our friend Scott Saylor over at Oshner's. He'll be there. We will eat some lunch at one of our favorite spots in New Orleans, Katie's Restaurant, which is located in Mid-City right there on Iberville Street. You can find them online at katiesinmidcity.com. katiesinmidcity.com is where you can find them online. They've got a great menu. They've got fantastic service. The wait staff is friendly. You can find the menu and the great selections before you get there online at katiesinmidcity.com. St. Louis style pizza to some of New Orleans favorites. All of it there for you at Katie's in Mid-City. Don't forget about their sister restaurant, Francesca's, which is a sister restaurant, a deli restaurant located in Lakeview. Stop in and see them over at Francesca's today. As all of that online at katiesinmidcity.com. katiesinmidcity.com. All right, we'll be back with more of the show here, as always, built by R&B Builders. Donaldsonville Glass and Body, the trusted name in frame, body, and automotive paint repair since 1977. They have served their customers for over 45 years. You can find them online at dgbauto.com or stop in and see them Railroad Avenue and Division Street out in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Look, they can help you with your insurance claims. They can make the repair process as stress-free as possible. I'm speaking from experience here. I've got numerous windshields, body repair, all done by Kenny and the crew over at Donaldsonville Glass and Body. They are, without question, the most well-equipped shop in the area. Stop in and see them today. Shop them online, dgbauto.com, or stop in and see the crew over in Division Street in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Donaldsonville Glass and Body. Hey fellas, it's Jordy Culotta for my friends over at Men's Total Health. Guys, do you suffer from fatigue, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, weight gain or loss of muscle mass, signs of depression and anxiety, hair loss, mental fog, general loss of interest? Then you might be suffering from low testosterone. Go see my friend Mike Roach and his great team over at Men's Total Health, over in Metairie at menstotalhealth.net online. And stop in and see how they can change your life today. A simple shot and some knowledge from Mike Roach can get you back up, moving with your energy, get your sex drive back, build your muscle mass, make you feel young again. All online, menstotalhealth.net. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz.
We're all from different places and backgrounds. We've each experienced our own versions of life, but in the end, we're all on the same team. I'm part of that team, along with these players in purple and gold.
Kayshawn Buddha, Malik Neighbors, Miles Frazier,
Kyron Lacey,
Greg Brooks.
Whether on the field or in the courtroom, your team matters.
So join our team.
make a difference.
Bet. Let's get it done.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Thanks.
And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
Don't let the name fool you. Men's Total Health has offerings for the ladies, too. Guys, is your wife or partner suffering from urinary incontinence, low sexual desire, or pain during sex? Then the O-Shot might be for her. Don't let it scare you. It's totally natural. It's PRP. And Mike Roach and the crew at Men's Total Health will make you as comfortable as you can be. Contact me for more information, Katie at jordyculottashow.com, and I'm happy to tell you everything that Men's Total Health has to offer for the ladies.
Hey Tiger fans, when you're traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, make sure to visit Tom and Wright Granning at Go-Mart and On The Go Deli, where you can fill up your tank and your belly. Go-Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need on your trip. Located at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left. Also, stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff, where the po' boys are so good you'll swear you're in Cajun country.
All right, welcome back here to a Wednesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, as always built by RMB Builders. A couple of reactions to some interviews that I've seen over the last 24 hours. One being Peyton Hillis, who was on with Good Morning America and Michael Strahan in an exclusive interview, talking for the first time since he saved his niece and son's life off the coast of Pensacola, Florida on January 4th. A real scary situation that Hillis went into detail with Strahan in going to the beach on a really kind of on a winter day in early January. They were in Pensacola, and just like we have all done during the time at the beach, Hillis woke up early with the kids and took them out to the beach. He had an 8-year-old niece named Camille. And his 9-year-old son, Ori, were the two young children that joined him in going to the beach. And within minutes of getting into the water, he noticed that the youngsters were in severe trouble as they were waving their hands. They were going underneath the surface of the water. And Hillis went into survival mode, right, real quick, as he swam out into the ocean and said that the scariest point of the incident was recalling when he was swimming to save the children, and he had to swim past his son to save his niece because she was in more danger of dying. He said to Michael Strahan, I knew that I had to pass him up to get to Camille first because, if I didn't, then there's no way she would have made it. He added, and so what happened, I swam past my son. I got to Camille, and she started freaking out, saying, we're going to die, we're going to die. I'm telling her we're not going to die. And then I've got to swim back, and, he's losing his strength as he's holding a 8-year-old niece. And then he's swimming up to his son, who is 120 pounds, that he puts on his back and is able to swim back in to shore safely.
Why were they in danger again? Was it the current?
The rip current.
Gosh.
The rip current caught him and started bringing him out pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
Nearly 5 months after the incident, Hillis is now fully recovered, but he had some kidney failure. He was unconscious on the beach. I mean, you're talking about a former NFL running back that was still in pretty elite shape. I mean, obviously he's not in his playing form shape before he retired in 2015. But, you're talking about a world-class athlete that just jumped into survival mode really quick. He had some lung damage. In fact, he said to Strahan, I don't think my lungs will ever get back to where they needed to be. Physically, it's coming along okay. Mentally, things are coming along a lot slower. I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. As for his message to anybody out there, he said, respect the water. Always be aware of the surroundings. It's very dangerous just to let your kids go out there and swim, especially without life jackets. Just kind of wanting to tip off. He was being called a hero, and he said, look, man, I was just trying to be a dad. He got scared and reacted, and it was to hear him tell it. I don't know if anybody's had the chance to see it. It's all over social media, and obviously Good Morning America is talking about it a lot. But it is, man, I watched it yesterday, and being a father, and I was at the beach one time. When I took Jordan to the beach 4 or 5 years ago, he went into the water right around dusk, I remember, and it was him and a friend, and he was probably 7 or 8 years old at the time, and I remember nothing really happened, just being so uncomfortable with him being in the water at that time. Finally, I just was like, come on, get out. Like this is too, the stress and anxiety of it was just, it was wearing on me. And to look up and see something like Hillis did, of them waving their arms and screaming and going under the water, I can't imagine, what it would be like. But I'd imagine it would be, a lot like what he did. Just you kind of kick into a mode.
Adrenaline.
Right? You just kick into a mode and you go get, you go and try and save the lives. And he did, thankfully. Everybody's still okay and alive and healthy. And just a very scary story that Peyton Hillis, former Arkansas running back, he played for the Cleveland. He was on the cover of Madden. Back in the day, he was in maybe the best collegiate backfield ever put together in the SEC. I mean, Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, and Peyton Hillis in 2006, 7, and 8. I mean, they were nearly impossible to stop. I mean, as good as LSU was during those stretch, and LSU was dominant during that time period, Arkansas always gave them trouble, and the reason really was because you couldn't stop their backfield. You couldn't stop Jones. You couldn't stop McFadden. You couldn't stop Hillis. In fact, the day that LSU got beat in 2007, the national championship season, the final regular season game in Tiger Stadium, they all three went crazy. They all three had a huge game. If you remember, Darren McFadden was playing quarterback. They were running the Wildcat, the Wild Hog, with Arkansas, with McFadden and Felix Jones. And then late in that game, they put Peyton Hillis in, and Hillis, he was just bullying them. They couldn't stop him. And they were phenomenal back in the day. And Hillis went on to have a pretty good NFL career. Like we said, he was on the cover of Madden, but scary story. Just right down the road in Pensacola.
It is scary. And Stephen Miller says, did y'all see this one too? How about the bear that swam up on the beach in Destin? Did y'all see that?
Wild.
That was unbelievable.
Did y'all see how big it was?
Well, they have black bears there, but I didn't know they went down to the ocean and took a swim. And people are everywhere around him.
Everywhere.
And they weren't scared.
That was
they were hanging out there in the water, watching it. And I was like, I don't know, the mom is somewhere, right?
I mean,
that's what I was thinking. Where's Mama Bear?
Where's the mom? Because that's not cute anymore.
No, the bear seemed like a little spooked whenever it got out, like it was trying to get away. But just to see it, I was like, why? I thought the same thing you thought. People were just looking at it. And I was like, I guess you don't. I don't know what I would do. Like, I would be hammered on the beach.
Yeah,
just be like,
getting away.
Well, is that a bear?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to stay in there with it because what if it freaks out? Or
They're good swimmers, right?
They look like
it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're good at everything. I don't think you can get away from a bear. They
it's hard to get away from a bear.
It's not too much a bear can't do.
I mean, you're in trouble. Let's get the hell out of here.
I'm going up to the room.
And that was a baby.
Sand.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yes.
Exactly. Did I see him?
Let's get out of here,
that a bear?
man.
Was that a bear?
Thought it was a dog.
And then the second interview, that I've got to give some reaction to. And look, man, that Peyton Hillis interview, if you haven't watched it, I'm telling you, it is humbling. If you're a parent, it can bring you right back down to life real quick on just how fast something can get away from you. And, you know, you just never know when.
The water is having a field day right now.
Yeah. Big water.
And
Big
then,
water is here.
Baby Gronk and his dad, just a day after we had reacted to this disgusting story, there was an interview that was published yesterday by Bring the Juice podcast. At Bring the Juice Pod is where you can find it. And it is the most cringy, it is the most alarming, it is the saddest video I have seen in a social media age with a father-son combination on it. It almost looks staged. It almost feels like a skit. But then if you know the backstory of it, you realize like this stuff is real. And I can't imagine what the next 4 years of this baby Gronk's kid life is going to be like because of what his dad has done to him. I mean, can we play the audio on this?
I don't know why we wouldn't be able to.
I mean, Stewie, can you bring this to life?
I got it up already.
I don't have headphones, but
And how does the dad not get this?
I've heard this. Have you not heard this?
No.
Oh, Katie.
But how does he not understand what he's doing?
He obviously has no idea.
Yeah.
Because he has doubled down on trying to clout chase for his kid. I mean, like,
yeah.
That's the sickening part, right?
Yeah.
Like, these answers, to me, it's almost worthy of, like, Child Protective Services step. To me, it's almost a form of abuse, what he's doing to his son as far as, first off, nobody's going to like this kid.
Right.
Right? Like, I mean, he's turning this kid into a heel all for his enjoyment. The joy and satisfaction that he is getting out of what he is doing and exploiting his 10-year-old son through is, I've never seen anything like it. I've never heard anything like it. It's going to go down. Hopefully, this is such a cautionary tale for anybody that comes behind these, you know, really the dad and looks and sees. First off, let's just give, I mean, sports is about evaluation, and sports is brutally honest about their evaluations. I mean, I have sat inside of recruiting breakdown rooms where coaches really break down a recruit. And it's not like they do it in front of the media. They talk about his mom. They talk about his dad. They talk about their physique. They talk about their diet. They talk about the things that you don't want people in public saying about you. So when they look up and evaluate baby Gronk, when it's time for him to get a scholarship and they see that his dad is 5'6", nobody is going to look at him and say, well, look, he's got the bloodline that'll tell you that he's going to be good in the future because of his midget dad. And this is coming from a dad that's 5'8". And I think my kid's a player, but I would never fill my kid's head with the stuff that is going on with this baby Gronk stuff, man. I mean, it has got to a point where, again, I would almost send Child Protective Services in, or some form of counsel or some form of evaluation to say, dude, stop doing this publicly with your kid. Like, this is a form of child abuse, man. Stewie, can we run this film? Mm-hmm. If you have not seen this interview, buckle up. This is the worst, cringiest video media I have ever seen when dealing with a father and son.
Are you him is the real question.
Yes.
See, I'm going to punch him in.
Punch
Ask
him
that
in.
again, bro. Say, man, what kind of question is that? You see my Instagram? Say that. Ready? Go. All right,
Hey, baby Gronk, Are you him?
What kind of question is that? Look at my Instagram.
Would you take her to prom someday?
This is sad.
Hey, no, say it again, bro. You gotta say, man. I already DM'd her and asked her, and she said yes. All right, come on, man. Say on the mic.
Hey, baby Gronk, would you take Lydia Dunn to prom, you think?
I already DM'd her, and she said yes.
Wait till the
Damn.
massage.
Damn. What kind of tuxedo you getting? OG James Bond style or what?
Yeah. Nah, hey, say it again, bro.
Hey, what kind of tuxedo
He
you
didn't
getting?
want to do it.
No, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
10.
It's 10.
Hey, what kind of tuxedo you getting?
I'm gonna get a Gucci one.
What are you gonna do, you know, to stay sharp and keep your skills up if you're actually not gonna go through with middle school and high school?
Just work out.
No, I'm gonna get massages. I'm gonna get full body massages by some baddies. All right, ready? Go.
What?
You want to ask it again, bro?
Yeah.
All right, go.
I saw that you're foregoing middle school and high school football. How are you gonna keep preparing yourself to play college football in this whole process?
I'm gonna get body massages by baddies.
Anything you want to say before we
quick
dip
learner.
out, baby Gronk?
Oh my God.
I'm the #1 fourth grade football player in the world, and flex, and that's it. Ready? Stand right there.
Say it one more time.
Yeah.
Hey, baby Gronk, before I wrap up, bring the juice. Anything you want to say to bring the Juice Nation today?
I'm the #1 fourth grader in the world.
There you go.
Yeah.
How is that an interview? The dad's just telling him every single thing to say and every move to make.
First off,
That's so
there
sad.
is some blame that has to go on the Bring the Juice podcast.
I think they're I think they're trying to bring it to light.
They did.
Well, hopefully,
Because
I didn't know about
if
them
they didn't
before.
do it like that, they would have cut all of that out and right. You would
I
have
hope
gone
so.
post production and cut just to Baby Gronk and cut the dad out. The fact they're keeping it in
They wanted
means
to.
they wanted the world to see like this is unbelievable.
But
This is a
also, they're
joke.
on the map now.
I mean,
did
Yeah,
y'all know about that
100%. I
podcast
mean,
before?
No.
Me either.
I want to put Harold Perkins and Ed Reed in an Oklahoma drill with that dad. I want them to obliterate that dad in an open field tackle. I want to see that little 5'6" runt put pads on and go get decapitated in the open field by somebody to let him know, hey man, you think this football stuff is a game? You think this stuff is a joke? You want to put an X on your son's back for the rest of his life in this game? Somebody's going to peel off and try and knock his head off when he's 12 to 13 years old or however long, wherever long he's playing, because of you, man. Because you are unbearable. You are relentless in the way that you are fame. You are chasing fame. You're clout chasing, and you're doing it with a chess piece that is your son. Using your kid as a pawn to bring yourself social media attention. This guy deserves to have his ass kicked in open pub. I'm telling you, like he needs. Will Compton is handling this beautifully.
Oh my God.
One of the co-hosts of the Bussin' with the Boys. Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. Compton is a former NFL player, and you get the sense in reading Compton's social media that he wants to close the door behind this guy and just be in an office, just him and the dad, and he wants to beat the ever-living shit out of this guy. And that's what this dude deserves. I'm like, that interview, when he tells his son that his body is going to stay right because he's getting massages from baddies, somebody should have walked in there with a 2x4 and knocked his ass
The
out.
mom, where is she?
Have you seen her?
No. Where are they from?
I have no idea.
Does anyone know?
Oh, look.
And Kimberly W. brings up a good point. Have we heard from Gronk, the real Gronk, on how he feels about his name being attached to this?
I'm sure he probably did something with them early on. Whenever it's like, oh, this
Must
is
have.
This is
you
cool.
know.
It was fun. But
Yeah.
then it's like,
But it
alright.
can't be cool anymore.
No,
to the real
BW Carlin,
Gronk.
a guy that's worked for a bunch of social channels, whether it be Sports Illustrated, Barstool Sports, the XFL. He's done a lot of their social work. Said he DM'd every one of those accounts. The father did their social platforms 10+ times, like to try to get Baby Gronk on the show. And he's like, we said no.
You know Paige Sprignac, the female golfer
Yeah.
that's all over social media?
Yeah.
She published the DMs that they were sending, that the dad was sending her. It was unbearable. It was like, she was like, this is out of control. She was like, do you know the content that I do? Dude?
Yeah.
I mean, I put my tits in everybody's face.
Right.
I mean, like that's my deal. Like you want your 10-year-old son?
Yeah, he does.
Oh, and like he's like absolutely. Like, I mean, like it's unbelievable.
God,
I mean, it is
sad. What happened to that guy, the dad, growing up?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
He's a former.
He's lacking
He's
something.
a former football player and musician.
Okay.
He's a football player.
He's
Who
a
does he
drug-
play for?
He's a drug runner.
I mean, who does he play for? Is he giving his youth
Like
stats?
it's like a
Probably.
former high school football player.
Like,
I'm going.
former football player.
I'm gonna go with
We're
a
all
high school-
former football players.
And he played in the band.
Yeah, he would take his pads off at halftime and go play with the band.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's probably
Livy
what
Dunn,
happened.
like
Yeah,
Livy
what-
Dunn,
what's
you need to
that
be
link?
you need to be a cautionary tale on this stuff.
What happened between the two of them?
They got to her.
And what did she do?
She took the picture.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna live in this world
Mm-hmm.
where you are an influencer and everybody wants a piece of you, you need to do some background before you
Mm-hmm.
snap a picture and put it out on social media. Right? Like, I know this isn't gonna kill the Livy Dunn brand by any means, but the fact that Livy Dunn has a picture with this kid within the last week and a half ain't a good look.
Right.
Not a good look. And I hope every influencer from here on starts to shut this circus down. Like, when this guy, or bring him in and clown the ever-living hell
Yeah,
out of him.
that would be
I'd
amazing.
love to have him on this show.
Well, I think he already burned the bridge. I think we exposed ourselves.
We'll see. He doesn't turn down anything.
That's true.
That's true. He doesn't.
I mean, I would love to have just the dad on. I'm not interested in the 10-year-old.
Has anyone done that?
I just want to talk to the dad and find out, like, what's your game? What's the end game here?
Money.
Money? Like,
It
who's paying for this?
I don't know, but he says they make $100,000 a month
I don't believe that.
from.
Show me your
advertising
tax
and-
returns, buddy.
I don't think he's filling those out properly.
$100,000 a month on what? What content are they putting out that garners $100,000 a month?
There's no way.
Ain't nobody paying any money for a picture of him and Livy Dunn. And nobody paying for that interview they just cut with the Juice podcast.
Jeez.
I mean, what do they make $100,000 a month on? Maybe the mom's OnlyFans page? Maybe? Because she looks like an adult entertainer. I mean, she looks like a porn star.
Yes, she does.
She looks like a porn star.
And not the good kind.
Not the
I'm
good
skipping
guy.
that video.
I mean, I'm serious. I'm going after that. I mean, like, he's pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
We're DMing the hell out of him. We're telling him, bro, you come on this show. We don't want anything to do with your kid. We just want to talk to you.
You know he's not going to do that. He's going to bring the kid.
That's the mother.
Oh, no way. No way. That is not her.
I mean, this kid doesn't have a
Her
shot.
boobs, like, each boob is the size of his head.
Yeah.
I mean, the true Hollywood story on Baby Gronk
Needs to start now.
is going to be mesmerizing.
30 for 30 is going to be insane.
10 for 10.
And I don't mean to bring light to it, man, because I have a kid around his age. It's sad.
It is really
That
sad.
is sad. I mean, that is so. I mean, can you imagine that kid looking back on that interview when he's 14, 15, 16, 24 years old?
No.
Being like, Dad, what
What were we doing?
What's up?
What were we doing?
He
What are
probably
you
won't even
doing,
be
man?
speaking to his parents at that point.
That's what I'm wondering is obviously the kid doesn't have the personality that the dad wants. He's trying to force it upon
Mm-hmm.
him. The kid just seems like he's trying to be a kid. He doesn't even stand a chance.
No.
I mean,
because-
like, what are you going to do with your body? He's like looking. He's like,
Work out?
I don't know.
What do you
I
mean
mean,
I'm
like,
not-
I'm 10. What do you do?
What do you mean I'm not going to middle school or
You're
high
gonna
school?
you're gonna get massages from baddies. His dad tells him to say in his ear, like,
That's disgusting.
Dad, like,
That's what's wrong with people.
This might be my favorite reaction.
is this Will Compton?
Yes.
Play it.
You just had to DM the account again, didn't you, brother? We have to step in the pantry and have a much-needed conversation. This is for baby Gronk's father. You are not coming on busing with the boys. I personally disagree with what you're doing. What I think is that you're exploiting your son for social clout, status, fame, money, and to fill a void that you couldn't fill on your own. I think this is all about you. You're hiding behind all this nonsense that it's not about you, and you're building him a bank account for a safety net. He's going to be a millionaire by the time he's a senior in high school. Yank fucking yank. His brain's he's been programmed since he was 6 years old. He works out 6 days a week. He's on a regimen and eats salmon and brown rice. And talking about this has been premeditated since before he was born. That is the definition. That proves that it was all about you. This is all about you. You're nothing but like a con artist running a pyramid scheme on the internet. If you're thinking about this since before he was born, he's 10. That means you're 36 years old. If you're thinking about this since before he was born, then that means you're like 24, 25. Your prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed then. It still seems like it's not fully developed. You're out here selling wolf tickets for a quick buck just in case he gets hurt or something. Oh, and then you're like, oh, like I did, like you did, claiming that your career is like Boobie Miles. What? Midland took Boobie's career. You just didn't make it. But you would have made it if it wasn't for tearing your ACL type shit. This has got to stop. This is insane. And you want us to join it. We're not joining the circus. Wolves don't perform in the circus. Unless it's for the right incentive, of course. But this has got to stop. This is insane. This is fucking insane. And I'm telling you, this is not going to end well. You're setting a massive expectation, a massive target on his back one day, and when he slips and falls and he lands on his face, this shit is not going to end well. And do you actually think he's gonna grow up and want to do the same thing with his son that you're doing with him? Taking him around and fucking parading him around, looking ridiculous in all the shit that you're having him do. This shit has got to stop. Somebody had to say it, because I can't fucking take it anymore, but this is not gonna end well.
Have you watched that one before?
Yeah.
He said he compared himself to Boobie Miles. He's like, if I didn't tear my ACL in high school, that's the most contrived bullshit of every athlete that was never actually good. Like, well, if I didn't get hurt, like, who knows? Like,
it's like the Midland comment.
Yeah, miss me with that. Like, yeah, dude, whatever.
Yeah, all right, bro.
I mean, my AC. Me and Coach just didn't see eye to eye.
Yeah, Coach hated me.
Coach hated me. I don't know why I didn't play. I'm him.
That wasn't his mom, they're saying.
Oh, it's
that
not?
was like a publicity stunt.
Oh.
Thank
I'm
God.
sure.
Thank God that wasn't her.
It was a photo op.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like that's what his kid is.
Yeah.
Man,
God, that's sad.
I heard about this kid like years ago, and I was
really?
like,
oh yeah, he's
been in the media since like 2020. And like,
I mean, like he's been around since he's been like 5 years old.
Yeah, but like I always.
Why is it just taking off now like this? The dad's just getting more psychotic.
Yeah, it's just more, and then obviously the Livy Dunn video went like super viral on TikTok, and then Barstool ran with it, and obviously their platforms.
Will
are massive.
Compton has taken it to another level.
Yeah.
Right. Will Compton is like.
Yeah.
He's in the
he
end.
Wants
he's
to fight the guy.
Yeah, he's giving.
Yeah, clearly.
I mean, he's like, I'll kick your ass.
Well, you do too.
Yeah,
you
but
and Will could do it
NFL
together.
You know what I mean? I'm sure there's a bunch of 5'8" tough guys that are yelling at baby Gronk's dad. You know what I mean? Like wannabe tough guys. Will Compton is a legitimate badass that will put him into a.
Oh my God.
Like he'll make him a pretzel.
How scary.
You know, like
the step into the pantry.
Yeah.
I know. I love that. We got to talk in the pantry.
Like a deep breath. Just.
That's so cute.
I can't believe we're here.
All right. Let me talk to you, son.
I mean, just.
It's so bad.
It's disgusting.
It is disgusting.
Like you feel grimy.
I know.
You know, it's like.
I want to know who the mom is and why she's allowing this. Clearly, that wasn't her.
And him just sitting around, like sitting there smiling and laughing.
I know.
It's just.
I know.
It's child abuse. I'm telling you, it's a form of child abuse that I can't believe has not been dug into. I mean, like you can see in that interview, that kid doesn't want to be there.
No, he does not. He doesn't want to say those things.
He doesn't even know what you're talking about.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to take care of your body? He's like, I mean, like, I'm just figuring out what my body is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know really, like, all of my body. I mean, like, it just, man.
You know how many
I don't
times
mean to make light of it. I don't even want to smile when I'm talking about it because I feel, I mean, I just feel guilty for. I mean, like, it's scary because I think, you know, I mean, I believe this is going to be a huge cautionary tale, right? I mean, it's just going to be something that you can look at and say, if you want to exploit your kid on social media from the time that he's, you know, can talk through the time that he goes to college, this is what could happen to you.
Imagine if the kid could actually talk. Like if he actually had like, the gift of gab.
Yeah.
That would be terrifying.
It would
like
be.
If it was actually him doing it.
But he does not.
Yeah, it'll happen at some point. Like it'll click for him. That's what you're terrified of. At 14, he's like, oh, I get the game. And then a 14-year-old with confidence that already has this platform is the most terrifying thing there can be.
Yeah.
Like he's going to be out there.
Yeah.
So you hope he stays like this to where he's like quiet and then he grows up and he's like, Dad, shut the fuck up,
Mhm.
and then leaves. But if he's going on this plan of, I'm not going to go to middle school or high school, how does that work?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
how
what,
it
you
works
going to play
either.
7-on-7 your whole life?
Mhm.
I mean,
Like,
I know. What the hell is
you know
the
how much
plan?
brown rice and salmon he's had to chug down? Like, I would like
I just want a kid's meal.
Yeah, ice cream cake.
Can I get some McNuggets?
Right.
I mean,
Poor
can I get a
little
Happy
fella.
Meal?
can we go to
Can
Chick-fil-A?
we get the kid a Happy Meal?
I mean,
It's like brown rice and I mean, that dad doesn't know how to cook.
Let's move on to our next video.
5'6".
If y'all can remember on was
We
it
do
Monday's
have
show?
we do have breaking news real quick.
Oh.
Each of the SEC teams will either play Texas or Oklahoma once in the upcoming 2024 college football season.
Wait, say it again.
So each of the SEC teams will play either Texas
Okay.
or Oklahoma
Right.
once in the upcoming 2024
Okay,
season.
that's
Gotcha.
cool.
And they have the schedule revealed tonight for the upcoming season. So just a little college football news for you before we get on to the next video, which we all, was it Friday?
No, it was. Yeah, was it Friday?
It was a
Yes,
Friday
it was
show.
Friday's show. We talked about our fears. Remember, Jordy?
I do.
Drowning, buried alive, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So then, our phones listened to us, I guess. And then this popped up on my phone. And I wanted you to see it for the first time here on the show to get your reaction to it. Does he need headphones for this?
I don't think so. I think you can kind of tell what's going on from the video.
Yeah, I mean, it does have writing on
Very
it. So this is
self-explanatory.
courtesy of, I think, NBC, by the way. NBC News.
What is this?
Here we go.
It's something you'll love. It's not. Oh, ooh.
I know.
Ah, it's kind of mean.
To the person?
It's, everybody involved.
Right.
Keep your eyes on the screen.
A woman who, oh my God.
She was dead in her coffin.
She was alive in her coffin.
Her family heard banging sounds about 5 hours into the wake. Look at her, alive in her coffin.
She was taking a good old nap.
They're lifting her out. This was during her wake. Look at them
What?
in church. Yeah.
What? How does
Yes.
that happen?
I looked into it
How does
because
that
I was debunking it, saying like, no way, because you get embalmed, like they know.
Don't they check your pulse?
Well, there are a ton of countries that don't have the money to do anything like to prepare the body for death. So
You
they,
put your index finger on a neck?
I mean, I think they did that, obviously, but they didn't embalm the body or do anything
Check that
else.
pulse real quick
They just
for me.
put her in the coffin and then had the wake. And
I
so
mean,
no one
before
knew.
we declare her dead.
I know,
Make sure
right?
she's dead.
Can we confirm she's dead?
Isn't that crazy? Well, look at her. She looks dead.
She did look dead.
She looks
Well,
so
she
dead.
She needed a little oxygen. It was
I
getting hot in
mean,
there.
She looked like
she's
a
like
side sleeper.
sunken in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine?
No,
and the
I
family
cannot.
sitting there in the
I would
wake
just
and
die.
she's banging.
I would die.
Yeah.
I know.
You would. You might be able to break out from the inside with your anxiety-riddled
Anger.
Oh my God.
like consternation towards being trapped like
Yeah.
that. You would just be like,
Punching.
I'm getting out.
Holy
Well,
cow.
did you know they used to
I'm
bury
scrambling.
people with a string into their coffin and a bell was
Yes.
outside in the cemetery so that the people that, like, what do they call it, that walk the cemetery at night, the caretakers of the
digger.
cemetery, if the person does come back alive, they pull that string and so they hear the bell. And so then they go dig them up. That's a real thing before they started preparing bodies and doing things like that.
God, man.
There's
So,
a-
like, apparently these countries that can't afford to do it, just, like, they have their wake and then they seal that coffin shut because the body's going to start to rot and then have the funeral and, like, the next day and then bury them.
So she could, like,
She would have been buried
mean-
alive.
hell of a sleeper.
How did she have the strength to...
I don't know. Is that nuts?
Thank God she did it in like
He's squirming.
I know, in like a place with like good acoustics.
Yeah, right?
Because if you wait a little bit longer,
The church.
she was just straight up napping.
Yeah.
She was on her side, like you said. She had rolled
Yeah,
over. And
she
was
rolled
like,
over.
Yeah, like, lights are out.
I guess that's what they heard. Yeah.
It's really dark in here.
This place is awesome. I'm ready to go now.
Isn't that
wait.
crazy? Apparently, that's where the term "Saved by the Bell" came from.
No.
And I didn't know that. I always thought it really meant like the school
The
bell
school
or
bell?
whatever bell. Yeah, I mean, that's where it came from. Saved by the Bell. Literally saved by the bell.
There's a lot of those where the string breaks in those stories.
Oh, good.
So, like,
They
my
pull it so
question
many
is,
times
what that
when it
made me
comes.
think about is, like, did they, I guess they wouldn't, like, I want to be cremated, so they clearly probably don't, like, embalm you or do anything before that. So, what if you're in there and you're, like, about to be cremated?
You knock on the door.
I mean, Like, how much time do you have?
I
And
guess-
how quick is it?
It's hot in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess they put you in feet first, just in case. So you'd be like, oh, like hot in here.
Damn, that's hot.
I'm
hold on,
sure
hold on, hold on.
that's what would come out of your mouth first. Whoa, whoa, whoa!
The hell's going on?
Whoa, whoa!
Y'all trying to cook me?
Yeah. What the hell's going on in this world?
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I guess they don't cremate you in like countries where that's an option.
They don't have the money to do that.
Well,
They don't have the money to do anything like that.
Well, they could still cremate you. It just wouldn't be it wouldn't be the way that you would think it would go down.
Exactly. Yeah, Hunter Fournette said that was the bell system was used during the bubonic plague. How do you say that? Bubonic.
Because there were so many people.
Yeah, that's gross, right?
That is.
Can you imagine just walking through a cemetery and hearing these bells and be like, I gotta go dig up another one? I know. How creepy is that? But what if your bell didn't work?
That's what they have. There's podcasts
My bell wouldn't
about
work.
this.
I know it wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, you did pull it too hard.
Yeah,
The string breaks off, and you're just
like,
holding the string like,
I
oh
mean,
shit, it came all the
my
way through.
God, dude,
And all those, I would imagine the people that's job it was to search around and listen for bells. I'm sure they were completely sober.
Right.
Like, you're just wandering around in the dark. Like
I swore.
Yeah.
I swore the bell was ringing.
Something.
Thought I heard something. I don't know.
Why'd you dig this guy up? He's dead.
Sorry, man.
Might have been the guy next to him.
Yeah.
Let's try him. Yeah, you take that shovel and try him.
God,
Dude, had some nice rings.
High anxiety.
I know. Isn't that wild?
Wes Johnson was introduced yesterday as Georgia's new baseball coach. He was over in Athens and got that out of the way. He's caught back up with LSU. He'll travel to Omaha today with the Tigers and will spend hopefully the next 2 weeks with LSU before getting back to Athens to take over that program as he was named the head coach yesterday. We also got a word earlier this week that LSU football picked up another recruit. They land 4-star safety Joel Rogers out of West Feliciana. He chose LSU over Bama, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and TCU. He is a top 300 player in the country. He blew up after his junior season and really started to see offers come in from around the country. He's about 6 feet, 185, and he is ranked number 7 in the country as far as safety goes. Or excuse me, LSU's class is ranked number 7 in the country with 16 commitments, 11 of those being 4-star prospects. Right now, they are cleaning up within the top 10 of the state of Louisiana, as Rogers is another top 10 player that they were able to pull from Louisiana, including guys like Tradez Green, who is from East Feliciana. Rogers is from West Feliciana, and even guys like Kalaj Cobbins from inside the state, who they've got committed as well. So LSU recruiting continuing to stay pretty hot here as they come down the stretch towards an early signing period in December. The Athletic had a great write-up about the history of LSU recruiting, and Brody Miller did a phenomenal job of finding a summer piece that would really be gripping and really kind of create some interest for people that are around it. And he went back and looked at the history of recruiting rankings and brought up some of the names and gave some categories for some of the recruits, including best recruit in program history pre-internet rankings. To me, this one's pretty easy, and he landed on it. It's Kevin Falk, right? I mean, Falk, I think that you could really pinpoint Kevin Falk's commitment to LSU as one of the early starts to LSU getting to the golden age, like they did when Saban arrived in 1999, 2000 to really where it is today. I think this is kind of the second wind of it. Ogeron and the crew kind of ran it out of gas in 2021, 2022, and now Brian Kelly is refilling the tank and getting it back down the road. For about a 20-year stretch, though, LSU was one of the premier programs in college football and finding its way back to that table right now. One of the key reasons for that happening was Kevin Falk. Falk was a guy, coming out of Karen Crow in 1995. He had everybody swimming around that program, and at that time, the big players in college football were Notre Dame, was Florida State, was Michigan, Miami. All of those schools were on campus at Karen Crow trying to get Falk. I mean, the story goes that Jerry DiNardo is introduced as LSU's head coach. As soon as he's done with his introductory press conference, he gets in the car and goes down to Karen Crow. In fact, Steve Schneider from our friends over at WAFB was following him and got the B-roll of that happening. And when Falk committed, the domino effect after that happened really was hard to ignore. 2 years later, you beat the number one team in the country in Florida. Falk's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Falk becomes an All-American. He's one of the best all-purpose players in college football. He's returning kickoffs at Notre Dame. He's returning punts against Houston. He's running for 200 yards against Alabama. I mean, he is a dominant player in college football. Goes on to be a second-round pick and one of the best Patriots in the Bill Belichick era. In fact, Tom Brady called him at Kevin Falk's jersey retirement inside Foxborough Stadium. Brady. Sorry. Brady. That's right. Brady says on the field that Kevin Falk is his most favorite teammate of all time. Now, I'm sure Brady's given some pretty good one-liners to a lot of teammates, but he said that in public in front of a Foxborough full-capacity stadium and a bunch of ex-Patriots standing around him. So Falk him up. He's the best. He was great to watch. Best recruit in the modern era. They have Leonard Fournette down here. Tough to argue that, right? Fournette was, the number one player in the country for all 3 years that he was being recruited. From his sophomore, junior to his senior season, he was heavily regarded as the number one player in that recruiting cycle. It came down to LSU and Alabama, and LSU had Frank Wilson, who has told the story of how that recruiting started at McDonough 35 when Fournette was a freshman. His first high school game that Fournette ever played against McDonough 35, he had 3 touchdowns and 150 yards at halftime. And as Frank Wilson tells the story, he told it right here on this show. He was at McDonough 35 St. Aug game that Saturday inside of Gorman Stadium. And he saw Leonard Fournette Sr. walking to the bathroom at halftime, and Frank Wilson had the accidental bump in the toilet in the bathroom, standing next to the urinal with Fournette Sr. as they're both, kind of standing there looking at the wall. Wilson says to Fournette Sr., "The kid's pretty good," and Fournette says back, "Yeah, we're thinking." And Wilson says, "Look, I need you to slow down and I need you to accept this. In 3 years, he's going to be the best player in America, and every school in the country is going to be flocking down to New Orleans, getting on St. Aug's campus to get a piece of him. Just remember, you and I had this conversation first, and we're offering him at LSU." And that's how the story went down. And from there on, Fournette was as heavily of a recruited for 4-year player that I can remember. Right? I mean, like there has been players that have come through here that, you jump on, you recruit hard, and you go after. And a lot of those guys in that class were the same type of way. Anthony Johnson, if you back it up a couple of years earlier, like guys like Anthony Johnson was the number one player in the country. He was a defensive tackle out of New Orleans. He went to O'Perry Walker. Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham were 2 of the top 3 wide receivers in the country. Jeremy Hill and Lyle Collins were 2 of the best players coming out of Redemptress. Kenny Hilliard coming out of Patterson was a can't miss. So LSU had seen big-time national recruits very recently before Fournette had gotten there. Fournette felt different. His stigma, his presence, the size of his recruiting was different. It was just different. So, I mean, I agree with that. I would put Harold Perkins in there now as well. I mean, Perkins was as big of a get as Fournette was.
Well, doesn't it feel like the Leonard Fournette story is because of who was recruiting, the way that the tide had shifted between LSU and Alabama and who was going there, and it felt like while he is from Louisiana, from New Orleans, it felt like Bama had as good a shot as anybody as landing Fournette And if that happens that way, it feels like almost LSU has to almost start over in a sense where if you can't get him, who can you get?
Mm-hmm.
And so for Leonard Fournette to pick up the LSU hat, it felt like, okay, LSU still has a life because they can still win these major recruiting battles against Nick Saban, who has absolutely built a highway, an interstate between New Orleans, Louisiana, whatever you want to call it, to Alabama. He was going to get whoever he wanted.
Yeah, he had to pick up a litter. I mean,
for Leonard to stay and go to LSU, it felt like that's why it was such a monumental get. Like, you knew the player that he was, but it was almost the narrative around him of, can LSU still win these battles in the recruiting world? And for him to stick around, and obviously, I mean, you could say his career was overrated at LSU, but I wouldn't. I mean, that sophomore year, you rarely do you get a player that transcends football for 3 straight years. Like what he did his freshman year, you're like, all right, he's going to be elite. And then everybody circled his junior year as, give him one more year, he has to come back his junior year, and he'll be all world. He'll be like a top 5 pick, which he ended up being anyway. But it was the sophomore year. If you were flipped the 2 years around, I feel like the picture around Leonard is a little bit different. Obviously, what happened against Alabama is a thing that people will bring up, but that wasn't his fault. There's nothing he could do about the way that the offense was run. I mean, think more about what does the article say? He went for over 200 yards 5 times in one season. I mean, that's insane.
I never saw Bo Jackson run in college. I never saw Herschel Walker run in college, but I heard and have seen highlights of those guys running in college. Fournette's sophomore season for a 7-game stretch, he looked like those cats. He was bigger, stronger, and faster than everybody out there. And that stretch that he went on his sophomore season, still to this day, is one of the most phenomenal stretches I've ever seen an LSU football player go through. And, I think it all worked out for Fournette as far as his experience in college and going on to be a top 4 pick in the NFL draft like he was. But, he played at a time at LSU in an era at LSU that will always be remembered for, Les Miles screwing up more than he made right. I mean, we can even stick on Fournette if you want. I mean, for as dominant as Fournette was his sophomore season, he wasn't even invited to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. If you could have put money down on that during October of that season, September and October, what would have been the payback on that? I mean, in the middle and late October, going into that Alabama game in the first part of November, he was the Heisman Trophy. Not only was he like the favorite, he was like the only choice at that point. I mean, there was nobody that was having as good of a season as he was until that night when Derrick Henry just went off, and then for the last month of the year, Henry became Fournette. And LSU, in typical LSU fashion during that time, where you put all of the stock into the Alabama game because their head coach, Les Miles, is playing this thing up for 2 weeks as if it's going to be the Super Bowl. LSU gets off the bus as the number 2 team in the country. This was the first Final Four rankings, the first college football playoff rankings that were ever published. The first season of the college football playoff rankings came out in Fournette's sophomore season. The first time that they came out, Alabama was 1 and LSU was 2. That was the Wednesday that LSU was going into Tuscaloosa of Fournette's sophomore season. Everybody in the world knew what LSU's plan was going to be when they got off the bus. Saban was putting 10 people in the box, legitimately. He had 1 safety over the top. It would be a defense that you would see in 3rd and 4th grade football, 5th and 6th grade football. If the other team has no threat to throw the ball, if they just don't have a quarterback and they're going to run it the whole time, just put 10 people in the box, just outnumber them. Just put more people down on the ground than they can block. Well, how are you going to protect the pass? They're not going to throw it. They will not throw it. I promise you. They will not throw the ball. Just put 1 safety back there to make sure whoever busts through, nobody busts through the line of scrimmage, and make them the safety valve. And Miles got off the bus knowing that everybody in the world knew that was going to happen, going against maybe the best defensive mind of his generation in Saban. And Kirby Smart was a DC on that team. And he ran Leonard into a brick wall for 3.5 hours. Never adjusted. Never got out of it. Just sat there and ran the best college football player in America
into the ground.
Just into a wall. Never apologized about it. Never thought, hey, we should put this guy in a better situation to make our team win. No, you know what Miles does? He doubles down, and going into Fournette's junior year, he's got him scrimmaging live a week of the first game. Fournette gets a high ankle sprain and is never right his junior season because Miles wanted to re-implement the Michigan practices that he was doing in the 70s and had him going full tilt scrimmage the week of games. Got the best player in the country taking full contact 2 days before they get off the bus in Green Bay at Lambeau Field.
Then gave it to him 23 times.
Fuck Les Miles. I mean, loud and proud. That guy is a joke, man. He ruined more of LSU football's history than
he made.
He was the worst coach of all time. The worst.
Yikes.
And even for what happened after the Alabama game, Leonard still had 91 yards against Arkansas. Then he went 108, 159, and 212 in the bowl game.
Was that Texas Tech?
Mm-hmm. Pat Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
most influential
DJ Chark play.
Yeah, DJ Chark, who you never knew about.
Oh, he was going to leave if he didn't play that game.
Yeah, you never knew about him. World-class track speed, sitting on the sidelines.
Still in the league.
Most influential recruit, Patrick Peterson. That was a huge recruit. Obviously, Peterson went on to win both the Bednarik and the Jim Thorpe Award. He also came at a time where they needed Main Street recruits. They needed big-time recruits. And Peterson, coming out of South Florida at the time, his first season was 2008, which LSU was loaded that year because, especially defensively. And in the next session, Brody Miller has biggest bust, and he has Ryan Perrilloux. Speaking of that 08 team, if Perrilloux would have been there, that team would have been totally different. I don't know if bust is the right term for Perrilloux.
Right.
I would term Perrilloux the biggest disappointment because you saw that Perrilloux could play. He wasn't a bust. Like, he could play. And when he got his opportunities in that 07 season where, you weren't really running a 2-quarterback system, but you had a plan in place for a guy that gave you a different option, right? He had a skill set that Matt Flynn didn't have. Right, and Flynn is a really, really good athlete, right? But Perrilloux was just a little different, man. I mean, he was bigger, he was faster, his arm strength, he had a whip for an arm. I mean, he had almost this release that when he let it go, you were just like, oh my God.
It was intoxicating.
I mean, his touchdown pass in the SEC championship game to Demetrius Byrd, still to this day, is one of the Tennessee defensive back knows he's in position. If you go back and watch this film, I don't know if you can bring it up, Stewie, but I believe it's like right at the beginning of the third quarter. And we were actually there, and I was sitting in the end zone, like right above the end zone, but I was sitting like had a really good angle of watching the throw. The throw never gets 15 feet off the ground, and it is a dart that the Tennessee defensive back knows he's in the position to make the play on. Right, and he can't even get his hands up fast enough to defend it. I mean, it's pinpoint from the quarterback's hand to Demetrius Byrd's face mask. I mean, Byrd has almost no choice but to catch it. But just an idea of how talented Perrilloux was, man. He ended up being the offensive MVP of that game. He had a big 2-point conversion that he later capitalized on. But that was really the only time that he played start to finish for LSU. Earlier in the year, he played against Utah State.
Middle Tennessee State.
Oh, was it Middle Tennessee State? He played start to finish, but that was the biggest game he played at LSU, was that Tennessee SEC title game, and he was the offensive MVP. And when he would get his chances during that year, he had a big night against Florida. In that Florida game that everybody talks about against 07, he scored a touchdown in that game early on an option keep. He had some big first down pickups on that option keeper. He threw a touchdown pass to early Doucet against Virginia Tech earlier in the season. You know, I mean, you could see that he was just different. He brought something to LSU that just they didn't have. He ended up getting thrown off the team in the summer going in between 07 and 08. That 08 team probably had, if not the best defense that Les Miles had, it was a top 3 defense that he ever had with Tyson Jackson and Derry Beckwith and Chevis Jack. All those cats were back for another year after winning a title. And Perilou was just a backbreaker. I mean, you went from the number 1 quarterback in the country 2 years ago in Perilou to Andrew Hatch, who transferred from Harvard. And I'm not taking shots at Hatch. He never thought he was going to play when he came to LSU.
No, he was
right?
varsity blues in it.
Right. I mean, he was like, man, I'm going to the defending national champs.
They get a ring.
They got Ryan Perilou down there. I mean, they got a great defense. Let's see. I mean, next thing you know,
he's running the Perilou offense.
Drop that clipboard. You're in.
You're in. As Andrew Hatch against Auburn.
Best development recruit, Justin Jefferson. Tough to argue that. Right? Yep. Former 2-star recruit. He was the youngest of 3 brothers that came through LSU. And I believe I told the story here of Jerry Sullivan telling 2 other media members and I when we were leaving the facility one day and covering, I believe, the 2017 team or the 2018. It was a 2018 team because Burrow was there. And he said Justin Jefferson was walking out of the facility, and he said, "You see that kid right there?" And we were all like, "Yeah, Justin Jefferson. That's the youngest of the Jeffersons." He said, "Not only is he going to be the best Jefferson, he's going to be an all-pro." And I remember us being like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm telling you right now, that little skinny, no muscle, doesn't look like he can play kid is going to be an all-pro." And we were like, "Say what? Why?" Route running and hands. He said, if he can do those 2 things, which he can do, I can teach him everything else. I can teach him how to be a wide receiver. And I'm not giving all the credit to Jerry Sullivan of Justin Jefferson, but if you do your homework on who Jerry Sullivan is, he means a lot to a lot of big-time wide receivers in the league. Look up Larry Fitzgerald and what he meant to his career. Sullivan is known as one of these, like, wide receiver guru type players or type coaches. And for whatever reason, him and Justin Jefferson hit it off very early. And anybody who you talked to around that building that was still around when Jerry Sullivan was there, you know, Greg Stringfellow, Louis Bourgeois, some of the guys that have, made it through regimes, they'll always tell the story of Jerry Sullivan's just no doubt call on Justin Jefferson, which, easy looking back on it now. I mean, you think, well, yeah, I mean, obviously Justin Jefferson, he's the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. In 2018, he looked 100 years away from being the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Hell, in the 2017 offseason, you wouldn't have thought that. Like, wasn't he the last one?
He was a gray shirt.
Yeah, he was one of the last taken. He got a camp offer.
I mean, like, some people say inside of the building that, like, they did his family a favor by taking him, I mean, which I don't believe. I don't believe in college football that you can do those types of things. Like,
I think you can, but I think there was a chance that he'll play a little bit. But there was nobody that, I mean, obviously he went viral a couple times for, like, the clips of him running routes at camps where you're like, he could definitely do that. Like, he knew how to run routes, but you're just like,
he was a phenomenal route runner.
He was
like Joe Burrow. I remember they asked Joe Burrow, like, when did you realize that Justin Jefferson was going to be good? And he mentioned, like, the summer that he had gotten here. So that would have been the summer before 18. And he was throwing to, big-time wide receivers, but he was like, these 2 young ones, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, are like, they're different. He was like, even they weren't developed, they weren't strong, they weren't they were just great route runner, and they just didn't drop anything, right? And so once everything kind of caught up to them, where they got the weight room and they got the training and they got everything. I mean, Jamar Chase caught a touchdown against Miami in 18, and then he caught a touchdown against Central Florida. The first and the last game.
They called it back against Miami.
Did they call it back?
They didn't give him a touchdown against Miami.
But he made the play, right?
He scored against Southeastern, the next week.
Right. But then in the last game of the year, you were like, whoa.
Yeah.
Chase looks like he's coming. Like, it looks like he's going to be here. Justin Jefferson wasn't quite there. He was there, but he wasn't quite to the. Was he making a lot of plays in 18?
Oh yeah,
18
he was their leading receiver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I remember thinking the opposite.
That's right.
Because you have the Texas game wherever he gets in 2019, and the way that Burrow continued to throw to Jefferson, like, oh, that's his match. That's his guy.
Really, I thought Terrace Marshall had the best chemistry with Burrow early on in 19.
Well, it's just from 2018 because he had trusted him so much, and like that's pretty much the only guy he had to throw to because Jamar wasn't quite there yet. But then you see late in 2019 where it's just Jamar Chase is not even late, but like probably game 2, game 3 of the year where you're like
in 19.
Yeah, I mean we had a big game in game 1.
Yeah.
But I just remember.
I thought the Texas game when he pulled that pass off that kid's head, when he's kind of falling back.
And he gets him by the feet.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you were like, whoa, Jamar Chase
is coming.
I mean, he's running past people.
But I just always thought it was going to be the Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow show that year. And obviously it wasn't bad, but the way that Jamar bust onto the scene was shocking because of the chemistry they had developed in 2018 with Justin. And then it becomes a Jamar show. And then you fast forward to when they're in the league. It's Justin Jefferson and Jamar again, and obviously still Joe Burrow. But I thought that it was going to be Jamar Chase, far and away the better wide receiver of the two, and now to see Justin Jefferson where he's you can't ignore him.
No way.
As much as like people wanted to write him off,
I mean, I think he's recognized as the best wide receiver in the league.
I think so too. It's probably either him or Jamar.
I mean, the conversation doesn't get too far away from those two.
No, you could. I mean, you could obviously sprinkle in Devontae Adams. There's other names that if you want to go with, you can. But those guys are in the conversation, which is it still gives credence to that team that it was. If you want to line it up again with 2019 and whoever you want to pick, you still feel pretty confident about that 2019 team.
Oh, I'd play anybody. With that squad.
Always got the parallel throw.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, this is it.
Cover 2.
Dart. Zip.
It's a little bit like the Dustmeyer throw.
I mean, like that safety knows I'm about to make this play.
I'm either going to decapitate him or pick it off.
Or at least knock it down.
And the corner's thinking the same thing. Like, surely I'm back deep enough, and he just zips it right over his head. Parallel
He was different.
My chosen one.
He was, man.
Broke my heart.
God, he was so good.
Good.
And he looked so
cool.
good.
Yeah, I know.
He wore the Hirachis. Still to this day, my favorite Nike cleat. He wore like the Kobe basketball shoes as a football cleat.
Yeah, the high tops.
Remember those early Hirachis that had like the openings on the ankle where you could pull them up? And Parallel had...
He did the high socks.
To this day, Greg Stringfellow still has that cleat like on display in his office. And you got to think about how, I don't think it's Parallels, but it's the ones that he wore. And you got to think how many cleats have come through that facility since Stringfellow has been there. I mean, he was handing out cleats to Kevin Falk. You know, I mean, and he's the only ones he has displayed in his office is those Nike Hirachis that
he knows.
07.
If anybody knows.
They were the purple and gold. They were the finest. And Parallel was the only one that would wear them. Like, you would rarely see anybody else wearing them.
I'm sure they were heavy as hell.
They look great.
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate everybody being here today. Make sure and hit that like button, share button, comment button. We'll be back with you tomorrow. JD's going to be here. Jacques' going to be here from Omaha. So that's why we didn't have Jacques today. He's traveling this morning, heading to Omaha, so we will have him tomorrow checking in from TD Ameritrade as LSU gets set for Tennessee in Game 1 coming up on Saturday night. Have a great Wednesday out there. Make sure and hit that like button, share button, comment button. We'll be back with you at 7. Mic'd up.
6 to 8 tonight.
6 to 8 o'clock tonight. Lloyd is Omaha bound. So hopefully Lloyd will make it safe and we'll get a report from him at some point. Hit that like button, share button, comment button. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good day.